Good. Here we are learning this week's Torah portion, which is called Emor. And it's a lot of laws of the Kohanim. And there's a lot of commandments in this week's Torah portion. As you will see here, let's see if I can get this. Here we go. In this week's Torah portion, there are a lot of commandments. One second, here we go. There we go. There are in this week's Torah portion and more. This comes from the book called Mitzvot Hashema, Commandments of God, and it lists all the commandments, 613 of them, as they appear in each Torah reading, weekly Torah reading. And this week's Torah reading, which is called Emor, God says to Moshe, Emor, say to the Kohanim, to the priests. There are 24 positive commandments and 39 prohibitions, which that comes out to be how much? 63 commandments altogether. And so let's look at the original text and let's go for a few of them at least. God says to Moses, Vayomer Hashem Moshe, God said to Moses, Emor Kohanim, speak to the Kohanim, B'nei Aaron, the sons of Aaron, and say to them, L'nefesh lo yitama b'amav. There are people you are not allowed to defile yourself for. Now, a person that touches a dead body, or if it's a Jewish body and you happen to be in the same room with it, if it's a non-Jew, then even if you touch it, but if you happen to be in the same room with it, or the body goes over you, or you go over the body, it's called ohel. Then that makes a person impure, and he can never go to the holy temple for the rest of his life. A person that becomes impure from a dead body, or he passes over a Jewish dead body, passes over it, or he's in the same room as it, that the rest of his life he can never go into the holy temple, unless he sprinkles on himself the ashes of the red cow. Right, so here we are. Shalom. The law is that any Jew that touches a dead body, whether it's a Jew or not, he touches it, then he's impure for the rest of his life. He can never go into the holy temple. Or if the dead body happens to be a Jewish dead body, then if he's just in the same room with it, or he passes over it, or the body passes over him, and then that's why it's so important that the graves, it says, have to be marked so you don't pass over. Then that person is impure for the rest of his life. That's it. He can never go into the holy temple. The only solution is the ashes of the red cow. If the ashes of the red cow are sprinkled on him, it's a whole process how it's done. Para Aduma, Parshat Chukat, later on, that then the person can go into the holy temple. That purifies the one. So a Kohen, he cannot defile himself with a dead body because he has to be always ready and able to go into the holy temple and serve. But there are exceptions. There are exceptions where not only can he, but he must defile himself for these following people. Who are they? God spoke to Moshe and he said, speak to the Kohanim, the sons of Aaron, and tell them, a nefesh lo yitama ba'amav. If you look, there's a Ramban over here, which we're probably not going to learn because it's very long, but he says Emor means a very strong, if it's repeated, it means a very strong, like, warning. So it says, never defile yourself for a dead body. We'll go and see a comment. Here's this big Ramban that I was talking about. Ki'im, except, and there's a few exceptions, can never defile yourself for a dead body. Here, let's look at Rashi. And more, speak to the Kohanim, and more v'amarta lasir gedolim al katanim, that the older Kohanim should warn even their children not to do it. even though the children are underage and they don't serve in the temple, but nevertheless they have to educate them. The sons of Aaron, you might think the Chalalim, there are what's called disqualified Kohanes. Kohen is a priest. Priest is not such a nice Jewish word, but anyway, Kohen. They served in the Holy Temple. You might think a Halal. As this says a Kohanim. A Halal is a Kohen that has been disqualified for whatever reason it was. His mother wasn't a proper marriage with his father, or he had relations with the improper woman or something. Anyways, that makes him a Halal. So Talmud Lomer HaKohanim. B'nei Aaron, says B'nei Aaron, even Bali Mumim, even Kohanim that cannot serve in the Holy Temple, that they have blemishes. They also are not allowed to defile themselves for a dead person. And to a certain degree, this all even applies now. This even applies now. Even the Kohanim nowadays, they're not supposed to defile themselves. It says B'nei Aaron, the sons of Aaron, and not the daughters. A daughter of a Kohen can, yes, defile herself for any body, any dead body, any funeral. That excludes a Mate Mitzvah. You are not allowed to defile yourself. A Kohen cannot defile himself for a dead Jew as long as the Jew has other people that can bury him. But if a Kohen is walking down the road or whatever, he sees a dead Jew laying on the road, then he can defile himself for this. If there's no one else, that's called a Mate Mitzvah. A Mate Mitzvah is you come across the body of a dead Jew and there's no one to bury him, then you, even a Kohen Gadol, it's a commandment to defile yourself and bury this person. And the Ramban, Rabbi Moses ben Nachman, he explains in great length, what does it mean? Omar v'omarta, right? It says Omar, Emor ala Kohanim v'omarta alehem. Speak to the Kohanim and say to them. It could have just said, Emor, speak to the Kohanim. This is what you should tell them. Why twice? Omarta alehem. So he wants to say that he brings all these examples also that says this is a strong sign of how strong and important the message is. We're going to go through a few of the commandments over here. This is the lesson of the Sifra. Sifra is a midrash. It's written on Vayikra. There's Sifra and Sifri. Sifri is a midrash on Bamidbar and Dvorim. And Sifra, there's a little bit of different opinions who exactly wrote the Sifra. And it comes out, at least the one opinion I read, it comes out that it seems that it's Rabbi Chia. He was the one that wrote it. Okay, anyway, it's one of the Midrashim, explaining the laws of Vayikra. Vayikra, the laws of the Kohanim, mostly. I guess that's why it's called Leviticus, for the Levites. Let's just do a couple more sentences. A Kohen is not allowed to defile himself for any dead person, except we just learned one exception, a Mate Mitzvah, a person that has no one to bury him. And here's a few more exceptions. Ki'im li she'ero, except for she'ero, we're going to see this means his wife, to his mother, father, his son, and his daughter, and for his brother. So here we have so far relatives. We have his wife. He must defile himself. Ki'im, it says here, lemitzvah. No, this is okay. Anyway, it says Ein She'ero Ishto. This means his wife, except for his wife. That's one. That's Karovila, that he's married to presently. For his mother, his father, his son, his daughter, and for his brother. And his brother. Okay, one second. Let's do it again. Except for his mother, his father, his son, his daughter, and his brother. Right? There should be one more. Where's the one? Here, we're going to see it in 1 second where the other one is. Here we go. Ul-achoto, and his sister. But it has to be a sister, a betula, that she is still a virgin. hakarova elov, that she has not been married, asher lo yata leish, that she was not ever married to a man, lo yitama, he should defile himself for her. Lo yitama, it's a mitzvah. He wants to say that it is a commandment that he has to defile himself for these dead people. He has to defile himself. It says asher lo leish lemishkav, even if it was no longer a virgin, but she had relations with someone, as he does not have to defile himself for her. There's the laws of the Kohanim again, of the high priest. We're going to look at the commandments in just a moment. Oh, you never know what the sentence means unless there was some rabbis. A husband should not defile himself in his people to become defiled. What does it mean? So Rashi says like this: a Kohen cannot defile himself. He cannot make himself impure for his dead wife if she is not a properly, is not according to the law fit for him. For instance, he marries a Kohen, marries a divorced woman. That's called a mechulal bo. It's called a halal. Halal. A Kain Peshuto, that's a simple what it means. Lo yitamal ba'al b'shero, a man cannot defile himself. He cannot take care or touch the dead body of his wife, or even to partake, to come too close in the funeral while she has family that she's not a Mate Mitzvah. In other words, if she is an improper wife for him and she dies and there's no one else to bury her, then she's like every other Jew and he can bury her. But if not, then that he should not defile himself for her. Let's see, then there's what about the high priest? The same thing with the high priest? Oh, what's that? 1 second, 1 minute, let's go back here. Oh, okay. Other things he's not supposed to do for a dead body. Lo korchu korcha b'rosham. He's not supposed to make a mark in his head for a dead person. That's usually what they did. Upad zekanim lo yigalechu, and the corners of his beard he should not shave off. And in his flesh he should not make sorotes, he should not make carvings. Now this is not only talking about the Kohanim, this is talking about Almid Velo, not about Halo Af Yisrael. Also, every Jew is not allowed to do all these things. Like it says on a Jew, Kadoshim you, we learned that before. You're not allowed to make a between your eyes, Lo taseh karachat bein einechem. As you might think that he's obligated on the head. It says me a Kohanim, the Jews can learn from a Kohanim what's called a Gezerah Shava. Now the Torah, when it was given in a code. God gave the Torah a code because he wanted one of the most important commandments in Judaism is to learn the Torah. So the Torah has to be learned, but there's certain principles about learning the Torah. You just can't do whatever you want to with it. These principles are very firm and very clear. So one of these principles is called a Gezerah Shava. If there's something uncertain here and the same word is used in another place where it is certain, and the same word is used, right? So we can, what is applying to the word over here that's uncertain, we can apply it over in another place. We can learn from the other place where it is certain. For instance, here it says karachat. That means to shave your head. Over there it says karachat. Over here it means the head, also over than the head. We'll call the whole entire head is implied. Just like it's talking about, you're not supposed to make it on a dead person, you're not supposed to make it for a dead person. That's what it says, lo yikru karachat barosham. In other words, you're not supposed to make a mark in the head for a dead person. That's the main thing. Also, the corners of the beard, you're not allowed to shave, because it says by a Jew, lo tashchit. It says by a regular Jew, not only the Kohen. It says you're not allowed to destroy. That's why there's some some religious Jews that they leave the side locks to grow very long. They want to show that they're doing this commandment. They're very special in this commandment. In Chabad, we don't have them. We don't let them grow long. There's a certain length, but not. Lo tashchiz. Yochol, you might think that you can pick them. You can think that you can pick out the hairs and then make it smooth. So it says, no, you're only guilty if you shave. And this is, what is that with a razor? So therefore, some people learn from this that from a razor, it's okay. You can shave your beard and you can pick it out without a razor. If you're not without a razor. And the fact is that it's not punishable. You can do it. But everybody agrees that shaving off your beard, however you do it, even if you do it in the most permissible way, there's creams and things like that, but it does not help in serving God. Unless it does. Sometimes it says there were people that were by the king and it wasn't nice, they had to shave, but that's very rare nowadays. You're not allowed to make, it says, V'seret lanefesh lo tidnu, you're not allowed to make carvings on yourself, especially for a dead person. So it says that what if a person makes 5 carvings, then he's only guilty for 1. It says, Lo yisrutu soretes. Each and every time a person makes carvings on his arm or whatever, he is guilty. That's what it says. Soretes, many you should not make many carvings. Let's just go to a little bit further. Kadoshim you should be holy to your God and do not defile the name of God, because the fire of God, ki is Isheh Hashem, the fire of God, and the bread of God, and all the offerings, they sacrifice, and therefore they have to be holy. Kohanim. Aisha zona v'chalala lo yikachu. A woman that is a zona, that is a prostitute, and we'll see what this word prostitute means, not like the usual word. That's also true, but it is more encompassing. It implies more than the usual word. V'chalala, and a disqualified woman, disqualified for the Kohanim, they cannot take. And a woman that is divorced from her husband, they cannot take because they're holy to God. Let's see what these mean. A zona means a woman, a Jewish woman, that had relations with a man that was forbidden, like Chayav Christos, a woman that had relations with her father, or Natin or Mamzer, or also a woman that was born from an illicit relationship. If her parents who had a relationship, that marriage between her parents was one that was punishable by death. Punishable death. A married woman has a relation with a man. She gives birth. So that child is called a mamzer. So that a natin or a mamzer, so that's automatically considered to be a zona. A zona. Any woman that nivalat Yisrael, that is forbidden, right? So any woman that comes from a product of an illicit marriage or that had relations with a man that was forbidden to her, that is called a zona. A woman that had relations with a non-Jew, that's already called a non-zona. Halala, what's a halala? She was born from one of those who were forbidden to a Kohen. For instance, a daughter of a widow is forbidden to get married to the high priest. A widow can get married to a regular Kohen, but not the high priest. Nowadays there's no high priest. Or a bat grusha, or if a woman was divorced, or chalutza. Chalutza is but the daughter of a woman that was divorced from a Kohen Hedyot. Bat grusha v'chalutza Kohen Hedyot. There's a regular Kohen got married to a divorced woman, and the child that's born from that is called a halala. That child that comes from, right, or the child, she cannot get married to a Kohen. Also, by means of or if a woman that had relations with a man, a Kohen, that was disqualified for whatever reason, that woman is also called a halala. Very exact laws. So a Kohen has to be very careful about who he gets married. That's why it's very important to have a proper marriage. Kiddush, you have to be holy because the bread of God they sacrifice. Kodesh Yelach, I am God that makes you holy. Let's just do one or two laws more over here. A Kohen Gadol, Ubas ish Kohen kisechel is nos. It says the daughter of a Kohen, if she goes out and becomes promiscuous, then her father she has defiled, and she should be burned in fire. Now we learned burned in fire means the punishment is that they pour molten lead down her throat. I don't think this was ever done in the history of Judaism, but it's pretty scary to know that God would like to do this to certain people. But I mean, you've gone against what God wants, but the courts, it's very difficult according to court. That's also what God wants. It's very difficult to find a person punishable, especially with death, according to the Jewish court. She was married or she was engaged to someone, and she had relations with someone else. That means she went to Zino. In this case, Zona means something different. There's also the different opinions, but nevertheless, everyone agrees. Modim Shalodavar. This is not talking about an unmarried woman. It's not talking about just a promiscuous woman. It's a girl. It's talking about a daughter of a Kohen that she was engaged to be married, or she was married, and she had relations with another man, which is forbidden. Her punishment is different. She's defiled her father. And then it starts to talk about the Kohen Gadol. Here we go. Kohen Gadol, what about the high priest? That that he has been anointed with the anointing oil, and he has been appointed. Malayas Yadav is appointed to put on the special garments, the Shmona Begadim, the breastplate, etc. So he is not allowed to shave his head, and his garments he's not allowed to have torn when he goes to work. Not shave. I didn't mean that. His head is not allowed to have uncut hair. His hair has to be cut. It says the Kohen Gadol, they used to have a haircut every week, once a week. They would have a haircut. The hair had to be exactly right. It couldn't be. In other words, they couldn't do any of these things which are done for a dead person. For a dead person, you're not allowed to have a haircut for a certain amount of time, and the garments you also have to be torn. This they cannot go and serve in the temple in this way. We learned that previously in other places. All other dead people, they should not go. For his father and his mother, he cannot defile himself. A Kohen Gadol, a regular Kohen must, and a Kohen, the Gadol, the high priest, he is not allowed to defile himself for his mother or his father. He cannot go into a tent even where they are, including just the blood that comes from these dead people is not allowed to defile himself. The high priest we're talking about. From the Mikdash, he can't go out, and he cannot defile the holy temple of God because Nezer Shemen Mishchat Kodesh, because the crown of the holy anointing oil is on him. I am God. So there's different opinions what it means that he can't go out from the temple, but generally what it means is to follow the dead body. He cannot go out. He cannot go out. He can't go out. He can't go after the coffin. And also the rabbis also learned that a Kohen Gadol, that he can make sacrifices even when his dead relative is there. He can't eat it, but he can, yes, make sacrifices. Even though his father and his mother, he doesn't have to go out from the holy temple, but he does his service of, that was the story from Aaron when his two sons died, etc. All right, let's have a little look at the commandments of this week. A little commandment, at least that's what we got up to. Okay, we started off, Emor, it's a negative commandment. Here we go. A negative commandment. Mitzvahs lo ta'aseh. What does this mean? Is not sharing? I'm not sharing? Should I go back? Your screen sharing is paused. Why is the screen sharing paused? What does that mean? Satan, a ball is what burned in the base of the. Okay, I don't understand what that means. But all right, anybody is invited. You don't have to necessarily make sense. Here we go. Ready? Here is and let's go back here. Let's stop this 1 second. And now we're going to go. Ready? Here we are. Welcome. Some of the commandments from this week's Torah portion. Some of the commandments from this week's Torah portion. We have altogether 24 positive commandments and 39 prohibitions. So let's go through some of them. We just finished learning the Chumash a little bit on them, but let's just see how this comes out in reality. Negative commandment. A Kohen is not allowed to defile himself. We're not talking about the high priest yet. A regular priest for a dead person, like it says, L'nefesh lo yitama ba'amav. A Kohen that touches a dead person, or he covers over a dead person, or he carries, let's say, a coffin. He doesn't even touch the coffin. He just carries, there's a long pole, he carries it. Or he touches the grave of a dead, or anything that comes out of the Kohen, even the blood. If he does it on purpose, then he is impure. And if he does it on purpose, then he gets beaten 40 lashes in addition to be impure. Not allowed to do it. If it's a Mate Mitzvah, then it is permissible for him to defile himself. This is in every place. Rashi says it's even a commandment for him to do it. Next commandment. Let's see if we can go down. Here we go. Sometimes get stuck over here. Stuck. Is it going to get stuck on me? Yes, I think so. That's it. It won't go anymore. All right, let's move this over to another place. And there we go. There we go. For some reason, this does not cooperate. Here we go.
Go back.
Wonderful. Here we are. Okay. I hope you won't mind, Herschel. I'm going to turn your microphone off. Nothing personal. Here we go. There we go. Okay. Second commandment. A Kohen, he is not allowed to defile himself for a dead person, but he must defile himself for his close relatives, like it says, for his mother and his father, his son, his daughter, his brother and his sister. If she is a virgin, then he must defile himself. Also for his wife, if he's presently married to her. And his brother and his sister from his father. This itself is a commandment, a positive commandment. But all the rest of the Jews they are obligated, this is a commandment, but all the rest of the Jews, they are obligated to mourn on any one of these 7 that we said before. God forbid a person's brother or sister, etc. Then he has to tear his garments, and he has to. On the first day is only from the Torah that a person has to do what's called avelut, mourning, and all the rest of the days, the rest of the days are only from the rabbis. From Divrei Sofrim, you have to do more. A person has to mourn for his brother and his sister from his mother as well. From his mother as well, but from the Torah, only from his brother and sister from his father. It doesn't really make that much difference to us. And his sister, even if she is married, if it's from his father, it's a mitzvah from the law of the Torah, is to mourn for her. Also, for Divrei Sofrim, from the rabbis, a woman should mourn for her husband. But women are not obligated to defile themselves for their dead relatives, but they can if they want to, any one of them. Negative commandment. A Kohen that is Tavul Yom. A Tavul Yom is he's waiting for the evening. If he's waiting, he immersed himself and he's waiting for the evening in order to be pure, to be pure, and so he can serve in the temple. So he says he's not allowed to. Don't think just because he went to the mikveh that that's good enough, right? That now he's pure. Not so. Says even more, if a Kohen was impure and he went to the mikveh and now he has to wait until the nighttime in order to become pure, and he can serve the next day, but he doesn't want to wait until the nighttime, and he does a service. So he says if he does so, then the service that he did is disqualified, and he can be punishable by death from heaven. Okay, this is only in the time of the Holy Temple, of course. Here we have 3 negative commandments. A Kohen, a regular Kohen, cannot get married to a Zonah. We already said that. A woman that had relations with someone that was forbidden to her. A negative commandment, a Kohen cannot take a Halala. A Halala is a woman, even that in addition to that previous one, but also a woman that was born from a forbidden relationship. A Kohen got married to a divorced woman, and the child, the girl, gets born from him. That's called a halala, and a Kohen is not allowed to marry her. Just for example, negative commandment: a Kohen cannot take a divorced woman. He cannot marry a divorced woman. One, we said a zona is, for instance, a convert, or a Jewish woman that had relations with a man that was forbidden. She had relations with a non-Jew, for instance, so she can never get married to a Kohen. And we see more details. Positive commandment, that you have to give deference and honor to a Kohen, like it says, v'kidashto. That he gets to sacrifice, just to call him up first in the Torah. He said you should allow him to give blessings to everybody. You have to wash his hands before he blesses everyone. Negative commandment: a Kohen, the great Kohen, the high priest, he cannot come into a tent with any dead person, not even on his mother and father. We'll learn that in a moment. Al nafshot lo yavo. He's not allowed to defile himself, the high priest, at all. The only time he is allowed to is if it's a Mate Mitzvah. If there's no one else there to bury him and he comes across, then he can defile himself. Positive commandment: a Kohen Gadol, the high priest, he must marry a woman that is a virgin. Like it says, therefore he's not even allowed to take a woman that's a little bit older, right? 15 years old, something like that. She's not allowed to, because maybe it could be that her virginity has been removed even by natural causes or something. He said if he happens to marry just a woman that never had relations, but she was older, right? She was older, so then he can keep her. But if it was a woman that had relations with another man, even though that she's not a divorcee or a divorcee or a widow, he's not allowed to marry a widow, of course. This is talking about the high priest, as he has to divorce her. 2 more negative commandments. A Kohen Gadol, the high priest. There's no high priest today, right? He cannot marry a widow, like it says, a widow or a divorced woman, or a chalala, a zonah, he cannot take. There's a negative commandment that a Kohen Gadol cannot even have relations with a widow. Like it says, lo yechalel zaro b'amav. So this is a separate commandment, so he's not supposed to have relations with any time with a non-married woman. But this adds on another transgression to that transgression. A negative commandment that a Kohen is not allowed to serve in the holy temple if he has a blemish, and we didn't get to that yet in the Torah reading. Like it says, the Kohen asher yebo mum lo yikrav lo akriv. If he has a blemish, and the blemishes, there's a lot of different blemishes that there are. There's a thing in his lip, he's got a forehead is too high, or whatever. Not allowed to. A negative commandment: a Kohen that has a blemish. Okay, this one first one was talking about a permanent mum. A Kohen that has a temporary mum, a temporary blemish. Right? He has something that's a rip in his lip or his tongue or something that can be cured, or that will automatically be cured. It's called a over. Also, while he has this blemish, he's not allowed to serve in the temple. There are 50 chamishim mumim. There are in Kohanim and in animals, it's the same thing. And it's a little bit different in the, okay, these are all learned in the Mishnah in Bebechoros. And if he does serve with one of these blemishes on his hands, on his feet, on his nose, on his this, then he is, the service that he did is disqualified and he gets beaten. Lashes. Negative commandment. We'll just do 2 or 3 more. A negative commandment. One who has blemish, a Kohen that has a blemish. Not only is it forbidden to him to serve, it's forbidden even to go into the holy temple. From the altar toward the holy and the holy of holies, like it says, "Achel paroches lo yavo, ve'al mizbeach lo yigash." Says he's not allowed to go even to the outer tent, what it's called, the ulam. He's not allowed to go, or even past the altar, he's not allowed to go, even if he doesn't do anything. Negative commandment. A Kohen that is impure cannot serve in the temple. And if he does, then his service that he did is disqualified, and the punishment is death from heaven. Like it says, Umetu bo ki yachalaleh, and he defiled it because ki yachalaleh, because he defiled the temple, therefore the punishment is death from heaven, which usually meant that he would die before he was 60 or 50. A negative commandment, a Kohen that is impure cannot eat truma. And this we're going to have to talk about tomorrow because we didn't get up to this in the Chumash. Like it says, Ishish Mizir Aaron, it says that anyone who is from the seed of Aaron, in other words, a priest, if he's a tzurua, if he has mitzoras, or he's a zav, means he had an emission. Kadoshim lo yochol, he's not allowed to eat. 2 more and that's it for today. Negative commandment, a stranger, a non-Kohen, cannot eat truma. Truma is a portion that's taken from the produce. A non-Kohen is not allowed to eat it. Like it says, called Zar lo yochol kodesh. And a negative commandment that a non-Kohen cannot eat truma, even if he happens to be a toshav socher, a Kohen, even if he happens to be owned by a Kohen. So what does it mean? What is toshav? This is a sachir olam. That's someone who's rented by a Kohen. Sachir shanim, and there's also, and sachir means you just rented them out for years, right? You're paying them. If it's a servant of the Kohen, then the law is going to be different, and that we're going to learn, God willing, tomorrow. If so, we've learned the laws. The beginning of this week's Parshas Emor is, like we said, there's 62, 63 commandments in this week's Torah portion, and we've just learned about 20 of them. All right, have a good day with Mashiach now. Shalom uvracha.